whenever I get too hung up on decision A versus decision B, I'll remember to take a step back and remember that like, this is the joy of it. This is like what entrepreneurship is. Making decisions under uncertainty, trying to do what feels right and dealing with the consequences as and when they arise. And sometimes good things happen and sometimes poor things happen, but that's okay because it's all part of the journey and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Ali Abdaal, welcome to Creator Debates.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this show is where we have stupid arguments to help creators make smart decisions.
Perfect.
And as someone who's very transparent, I thought it'd be fun to bring you on here to talk about something that you were internally debating.
Ooh.
And you are someone I think who's pretty introspective. You're in your head a lot, I think. And so it's a compliment, by the way.
Thank you.
And so I'm wondering, what's on your noggin, man? What's knocking around in there?
That's a good question. What is knocking around in there? I'll throw out a couple. I'll throw out a couple of things, then you can just decide which one we think about. One is, so we've got our content and we've got our courses, and so should the courses almost stay underneath my personal brand, like these are courses by Ali Abdaal, or should we have productivitylab.com, youtuberacademy.com? These are their own mini businesses that have their own teams and eventually move away from Ali Abdaal as being like the core face of those things. That's like, I think that's the direction I want to go, but it's something I'm debating because it's like, what's the harm in, Tony Robbins' courses are still Tony Robbins courses. They're not like just datewithdestiny.com, for example. That's thing number one. Thing number two relates to your line of work, which is that I get a lot of questions from creators about sponsorships, and almost everyone I know absolutely hates running sponsorships on their channel, but they feel like they have to because otherwise they won't make enough money to be able to afford their team, and they feel like they need the team because otherwise they have to do their own editing, and there's a lot of this sort of coercive energy around sponsorships. And so it's not really something that I worry about because we now have a team and we've been doing it for a while, and we've got your help as well. But I wonder, I do think about like, how should I advise creators, or like what are the sorts of things they should think about when it comes to this coercive feeling like they have to do sponsorships, but they really don't want to.
So let's unpack this. Let's go to the first thing first, actually, because I've heard you talk about this before around trying to extricate yourself, your person, from, create a business that could stand on its own legs. So where are you at there first in terms of like, is this something you really, truly, fundamentally believe is something necessary for the longevity of your livelihood? And two-part question, if you're comfortable sharing, how much of it is also about ensuring the livelihood for those who depend on you, which is your team?
I don't think it's necessary to sustain my livelihood, but I do think it's necessary for the team because, for example, I've been running my YouTuber Academy now for like 3+ years, and I'm no longer that interested in teaching beginners how to grow on YouTube. It's not the thing that lights me up. It's still a good business, and our content and our team still provides a lot of value to beginners who want to grow on YouTube. It's just like I've personally lost interest in that specific niche. And so a question that I've been thinking about is, should we just scrap the YouTuber Academy and just kill it because, we can move on to the next thing I'm excited about? And most people I've spoken to is like, dude, this is a $3 million a year business. Like, you probably shouldn't just kill a $3 million a year business. You can find a way to make it less reliant on you or completely non-reliant on you so that it can continue to run as a business. And then imagine a world where, I had, let's say, a holding company with multiple of these like mini businesses, all doing a couple of million a year in profit. That's a pretty good life. And so when I heard about that, I was like, oh, okay, that actually means my personal excitement levels don't have to correlate with what businesses we have. It means the teams can run and grow those. It means the teams can then be incentivized through profit share or through equity in those specific products. And it means that, an issue we're having in our business right now is that a lot of our team have been with me for like 3+ years. And they're sort of looking up and looking at Angus and thinking, well, Angus is not going to quit. So like, there's no career progression. But the idea, we've run this by the team, and the thought of them being able to take ownership of a product, turn it into a mini business, run that business as if they're the CEO of it, and they are. That's like a cool thing, and it means we can retain really good talent, give them ownership, cultivate this sense of sort of intrapreneurship, like entrepreneurship within our business. Kind of a cool thing for the team, kind of a cool thing for me. I wouldn't say no to a couple million in extra profit, and I like the idea of not having to kill off products that I'm no longer interested in.
Is there a I've heard you talk before about how challenging the decision was to leave medicine. And I'm wondering if there's a similar feeling of you, quote unquote, abandoning the P2IA or still running it, even though it's not heart-led anymore, or you don't feel like a ton of draw to actually serving that community anymore. And like, would you feel weird about continuing to run it? Is that the source of it, that you feel like disharmony, feeling like, oh, if my heart's not there, how can I actually continue to sell this?
Yes, sort of. So it's no, I think the reason to leave medicine was hard. Leaving medicine was hard because I had a lot of identity tied up in being a doctor.
Yeah.
I don't have any identity tied up in being the guy who teaches YouTubers how to grow on YouTube.
Okay.
It's not really my shtick.
Right.
But I think back when I was thinking of it as, I am the face of this YouTuber Academy. I have to be the one to update the course. I have to be the one to drive leads to it. And this thing only sells if I continue to make videos about how to grow on YouTube. In that world, the fact that my heart is not in it means that the business won't work. But in a world where actually it's got its own team, it's a YouTuber Academy, I've taught the main course already, but actually the updates are being given by other people in my team who now know way more about YouTube than I do because I'm sort of outside of the weeds of it, where YouTuber Academy has its own sources of lead generation outside of me. Maybe the team has decided to start a YouTuber Academy podcast where they interview other YouTubers. It's like, great. Every now and then I'll feature as a guest, but you guys go ahead. That to me feels very exciting.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, this thing is a good product that helps people. It's just that I'm not excited about it anymore. And so if we can retain the helping of people and the printing of cash without me needing to be excited about it, win-win for everyone all around.
Is there some element of it, or do you ever like check yourself in the mirror like, why am I being so stupid about this? It's like a lot of money and I'm like kind of want to get rid of it. Does it come from a feeling like I can like make anything work. I'll figure the next thing out and that'll probably work too. Do you have confidence, that level of confidence about your fortitude to build stuff like that?
I didn't used to, but about 6 months ago, sort of something changed. Maybe correlated with, the book came out. And so it's like I had this big weight off of my shoulders. I also did an ayahuasca retreat. And so I became even more zen than I already was. And I think actually the key pivotal point was that I realized that I'm okay with leaving money on the table if I'm having more fun. And I realized that at every stage of this business stuff, there's this choice between, do you want to make the money or do you want to enjoy yourself? And sometimes those things overlap, but sometimes they don't. Creators could always do more sponsorships, but like there comes a point where like saying yes to that next sponsor or saying yes to Raid Shadow Legends starts to cost you something in terms of your personal integrity or like personal feelings, even though you could make money. So I feel like there's always this trade-off, and I'd love to know if you disagree with it, but to me it feels like there's often a trade-off between enjoyment and money. And when I realized I'm optimizing for enjoyment, not for money, that sort of took all the pressure off. And now playing the money game just feels like playing a game. It's like a video game. It's like, it's just sort of the next level of entrepreneurship, building this holding company and like multiple cash flowing assets and stuff. It's just like a cool thing to do. Something to pass the time, as they say.
I ran an influencer marketing agency for about 7 years and it failed spectacularly. Had to lay off all my employees. And it was the lowest point in my life ever. And I still have a lot of trauma from that in terms of building this new business and being very careful and all that stuff because of what happened. But when I was in that like super, super low place, it was also during COVID, which didn't, we were all sheltered and you know the drill, right? But it was like I had wrapped my identity so tightly in the business that I was building. And who was there for me in my lowest moment? It was my family. It was my wife, April. It was my sons, Liam and Jacob. And the thing that it unlocked for me was that I'm running the business to provide for my family. That's what it is at the end of the day. And for the longest time, I felt like I was about to round the corner in the business or my life. It was just like, if I just get that next big deal, if I just land this next client, if I just launch this product, if I just do this one thing, I will have arrived. I will have succeeded. And when it all crumbled and when it all failed, I realized like there is no corner. It's like the journey, that's life. And so when I hear you talk about, the various, like what's next for the business, what's the evolution going to be and all that stuff too. It's like, at least for me, I know that like in, 40 years or whatever, I'm going to look back on this like real messy middle as like with the most fond memories. And so I don't know, to me, the point is like, there's probably multiple right decisions. None of them are, maybe there's an optimal one, maybe there's not. And you just have to kind of go with what feels right in the moment, probably.
Yeah.
And just not like analyze it, not look back and be like, you pick something and you move forward and you deal with the consequences of that. And whether it's right or wrong, you'll deal with it, How does that resonate with you?
Real quickly, remember your first podcast episode, your first YouTube video, your first blog post? Think back to how it felt to hit publish on that early piece of content. Now, look at how far you've come. Your content has transformed, and so have you. But has your email marketing platform kept up? Do you even have one? Enter this episode's sponsor, ConvertKit, which is the email marketing service designed specifically for creators like you and for me, because I use it and I love it. Whether you're crafting newsletters, managing subscriptions, or sending updates, ConvertKit grows with you. With easy integration for your blogs, your podcasts, your YouTube channels, and your e-commerce stores, ConvertKit ensures that your email marketing works as hard as you do. Look, I'm gonna be real with you. When you press publish on platforms like YouTube or TikTok, you're kind of at the mercy of the algorithm for your content's reach, right? And to prove it to you, I'm actually gonna pull up one of my recent Instagram reels. Okay, I'm gonna click the insights here. Okay, look at this. I have 11,300 followers, and this reel reached 301 accounts. So quick math, that is 2%, 2% reach. Contrast that with my average open rate in ConvertKit, which is between 40 and 45%. So which one do you want? 2%, 45%, 2%, 45%. Which one are you gonna pick? So take control with ConvertKit. Here you can own your audience relationships directly. There's no middleman, there's no unpredictable algorithm changes, just a direct line to your followers. ConvertKit isn't just another tool, it's a partner in your creative journey. So if you're ready to create with freedom, automate with ease, and engage your audience like never before, build a platform you own. Start with ConvertKit today at convertkit.com. That's convertkit.com. All right, let's get back to it.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, this is something I've also realized recently that I need to keep almost reminding myself of. Like whenever I get too hung up on decision A versus decision B, sometimes I'll remember to take a step back and remember that like this is the joy of it. This is like what entrepreneurship is. It's like making decisions under uncertainty, trying to do what feels right, and dealing with the consequences as and when they arise. And sometimes good things happen because of gut decisions. Sometimes poor things happen, but that's okay because it's all part of the journey. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. So it's like, this is the game, the infinite game.
It's funny. I had a coach that I used to work with. His name was Crawford. And when I ran the agency, and one thing that he told me that I never forgot, which was like, I was very having all sorts of personnel issues and all sorts of macro business issues. But he basically stopped me one day during one of our sessions and he said, Justin, it sounds like you're making a lot of decisions from a place of fear instead of optimism. And when you make decisions from a place of fear, really bad things happen for your life, for your business, and things like that. He said, what if you chose to make decisions from a place of optimism? And I said, I can do that.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to do that, right?
Yeah.
And that was so freeing to me, right? Because it was like, I catastrophize a lot, I think, And so just being able to know that I had the agency to like choose to be optimistic about something, to choose that like this decision could go right. That was so liberating for me. It was like, I don't know. It was like, I'll never forget that.
Did any bad things happen as a result of making decisions from optimism? Because I guess someone listening to this, like I can think of a bunch of kind of YouTubers I know who would be thinking, well, if I were to make decisions from a place of optimism and I were to project our course revenue as X, but it's actually 0.3X, and suddenly I can't pay my team and I'm going to have to lay people off and blah, blah, blah. Therefore, I have to make decisions out of fear.
Have you read the book Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke?
I haven't, but I've read the short form summary of it.
Okay, yeah. So she talks about this concept in it called resulting.
Resulting. Okay.
Which is like you assign a good outcome to whatever decision you made to get there, even if it was a bad decision. So you say, oh, because I got the result I wanted, I guess the decision I made was a good one, and I'm going to keep doing stuff like that, even though it actually might have been a poor decision and it was actually more about luck that actually got you there.
Yeah.
By the same token, you could have a bad outcome, and even though you made a good decision, continue to make good decisions because you got the bad outcome that one time.
Yep.
And so the answer is like, of course, right? There's so much of it that like you can't control sometimes when you try to, but all you can do is make the best decision possible in that moment and feel peace that whatever happens, like this was a good decision. This was the right decision in this time.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels good.
That feels good.
It feels good, right? Maybe we should shift gears to your second question around sponsorships.
Yeah.
I've heard this a lot, dude, actually, about the feeling in the back of the throat that some creators feel about sponsorships. And before I answer, I want to know where you gave a description. You said, I'm actually okay with this right now, but I hope it's okay. But last night you shared, I'm not sure that I love doing them all the time. And so tell me more. Like, where does that come from? Is it just like, I prefer selling my own stuff, feels better?
Yeah, pretty much that.
It's pretty much that.
It's pretty much that. Oh, it's also, certainly in the past when I used to do sponsorships, they'd always have a deadline associated with them. And then, we'd have 4 or 5 or 6 for, let's say, the month of June. And then it gets to the 25th of June and like 2 or 3 videos have been delayed because I didn't have them prepped early enough, or the editors were on holiday, or someone was ill, or whatever. And then it's like the feeling of the crunch in the final couple of days being like, well, the brand has said that they really need this video to be out before Q3 starts, and therefore, like, we've got to get 3 videos out in 3 consecutive days because to meet these brand deadlines, and maybe one of those isn't quite ready because it needs more work. Now it feels like I'm creating a substandard product for the sake of another brand's like financial projections or something, and that always felt really bad, to the point that I would always say to Angus, I wonder if we just scrap sponsorships altogether. That's his like the thing he hears from me every few months.
I'm going to give you some different advice than I might give another creator. And we'll go back to maybe a smaller mid-tier creator. But you, I think, have crossed the chasm in terms of your notoriety, your reputation, your cachet in the industry. And I think that especially now that the book is out, it's a bestseller, the value for a brand or a company to partner with someone like you, increasingly, the deals that you could start to forge do not conform to a standard brand deal.
Interesting. Yeah.
Where to date, with the podcast, with the YouTube channel, this is how you came up, right? Doing the standard kind of brand deal integration, 90-second spot, whatever. But I gave this advice recently, actually, to Tiago Forte as well, which is that the partnerships that are coming inbound now, in my opinion, are a trap for you.
Oh, okay.
Because this is the dream for every creator. We think like, oh yeah, just like I make the content and they come to me, right? It's like an ideal scenario. But the problem, especially given the hesitation that you just described, is that when those brands come inbound, they have a lot of guardrails. They have got timelines. They've got budgets that they were able to allocate. They've got the key messages you've got to hit. They've got the call to action. Right, it's a standard shtick, right? And so the advice that I'll give to you is that now it's time to stop saying yes to inbound deals. It's time to go out there and ideate and co-create the most beautiful partnership that you can think of in the world with the most aspirational brands and companies that you want to, and the slate is blank. So when you come to them and say, you might have to eat a bit of humble pie because there's going to be some brands who maybe don't know who you are initially, or don't know how big of a deal you are, right? And so you might have to do a bit of dog and pony show and be a bit more performative and have the discovery calls and things like that. But those are going to be the most exciting and most lucrative deals that you'll ever forge. Because they're not allocating you the sliver of the Q3 marketing budget. They're allocating you a budget just for you, for this project that you're pitching them that is aligned with their own initiatives.
Yeah.
And so not every creator can be afforded deals like that, but I think you're in a unique position to do those types of things now.
Interesting.
And the beautiful part about that is that it's not like, okay, we got these 6 YouTube deliverables, and there may be some social promo assigned to that, but there's going to be a lot more flex. It's probably going to be, imagine if you were the chief evangelist of, I don't know, insert company, digital creativity company X, whatever. I'm sure you can think of a short list of brands where like, well, that would be cool to like actually go and speak on a stage on their behalf or do some sort of other creative evangelism for them.
Yeah.
How does that hit you?
That feels way more interesting than the standard shtick. It also feels like it would be more work, especially when you mentioned sort of like hopping on the discovery calls and stuff, where I was like, we do have someone on our team, Amber, who's taking over partnerships and stuff. And so if there was a way to do this in a way where Amber could be the one talking to the brand and forging the partnership and stuff, and then I just rock up and go on stage or do the video or whatever, that to me then feels like, okay, yeah, I can see myself doing that. That feels kind of exciting. If it's stuff like, everything I wear is Lululemon. So if like Lululemon were to work with me or something, then it's so easy for that to just be like an Instagram partnership, because everything I'd be likely wearing is that brand anyway. So there's stuff like that where I'm thinking, that could be kind of cool.
Let me ask you this. Do you have an impact mission with the book or the things that you're going to be doing from here forward?
I've never found a way to phrase it well, but something to the effect of helping people build a life they love, helping them change the trajectory of their life and nudge it onto a different path that is maybe more aligned with what they actually want.
Okay, so let me unlock something else for you, which is that those unique brand partnerships could be your ticket to accessing a new audience or customer base to help you accomplish that mission.
Okay, how so?
So right now you're relegated to your own audience.
Yeah.
People who are reading your books, people watching your channels, whatever, if you do traditional media. But a lot of brands are desperate to talk about anything other than their product to their customer base.
Oh, interesting.
Because that's what they're doing all day long.
Yeah.
And so imagine if they're able to say, we're doing this amazing event with Ali Abdaal, and they email their 500,000 customer base about it.
Yeah.
And now they're now entered into the Ali Abdaal universe.
Okay, that seems fun.
And so it's not just about the dollars and cents. It's part of it. But it's about realizing that this is a 2-pronged strategy here that helps with your impact goals as well.
That's fun. Okay, I like that. I'd never thought of sponsorships or partnerships in that way.
That's because you're used
that would be cool.
to doing
Yeah, I'm used to doing the 90-second shtick. Yeah.
And anyone listening or watching this who are thinking, okay, that's nice for Ali Abdaal, he's huge and has this big audience and stuff like that. My argument is that you can actually do this even if you're a smaller or mid-tier creator, especially if you have a very specific niche or vertical, because those brands have a really hard time marketing, right? Because there's just less people who could credibly talk about that particular product or that industry. And so, a lot of my students, a lot of my clients are like doing this actively right now. And you're right, it does take more work. It's more work than, it feels nice when the brand comes inbound and will pay you a bunch of money, right? But I don't know, this just fires me up, man. I love this stuff because it's like that moment I just saw you on, you're like, that actually feels fun to me.
Yeah.
I live for that, dude. And so I'm glad. Hopefully it unlocked something for you.
Yeah. No, that's definitely interesting. And I'm thinking, I should have a chat with Amber about how can we think about partnerships in a way other than what's the 90-second promo for the video?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. And if people want to learn more about you and follow you, what's the best place to find you?
Yeah, check out the YouTube channel, Ali Abdaal, and you can check out my book. And if anyone's listening and has read the book, then nice Amazon reviews in my love language. Just saying.
And the book is called Feel Good Productivity.
Feel Good Productivity. How to do more of what matters to you in a way that's enjoyable, meaningful, and sustainable.
Thanks again, man.